Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, I have made previous videos on my channel discussing that Sweden can be a rather expensive country, but I've never gone into detail about the certain things and items that really stand out to me as being the most expensive. So I've done a lot of thinking and compiled a list of the top 5 most expensive things that I think are very, very expensive to Sweden compared to where I'm from in the United States of America, and I think some of these will absolutely blow you away when I compare the price in Sweden versus what I'm used to as an expat coming from my home country. The first thing that I want to mention in this video is the cost of plastic bags. Now, the Swedish government passed a tax on plastic bags, which comes out to about 3 Swedish crowns per plastic bag. And it's actually illegal for stores now to give these plastic bags away for free. So basically, anytime you go to the grocery store, if you do not have your own bag, you're basically forced to buy one of these plastic bags. And this is something that I would always like to do. I'd like to buy the plastic bag because by getting that, I could reuse them as my garbage bags and not have to buy separate garbage bags because I thought that was just a very practical thing to do. But now, because of this added tax, the actual cost of these plastic bags at the grocery stores ends up being around 7 crowns on average, at least in my experience shopping around Stockholm. And that comes out to about 84 cents in America, which is pretty high. So I did some calculations and some math here. And let's say I go to the grocery store 3 times a week on average. Or let's say I go to the grocery store 2 times a week and I go to the Swedish liquor store once a week in some cases. But let's just say I buy 3 plastic bags a week on average. Well, I did a little equation here. And if I did 3 times a week times 52 weeks in a year times 7 Swedish crowns, the cost of the actual plastic bag, and then I do this little equation, and it came out to 1,092 Swedish crowns in a year. And if I convert that to US dollars, in a single year, I'm spending $131 just on the plastic bags to haul my groceries. And that, to me, is absolutely mind-blowing because at least when I was living in the US, we never had to pay for grocery bags ever. So that's just over $100 that I can pretty much kiss goodbye if I don't bring my own bags to the grocery store. And that's basically, if you want to save some money in Sweden, invest in some bags that you can reuse and bring to the grocery store. And if you want to have bags for your garbage, find a way to, buy different plastic bags and not the actual plastic bags that they're selling to haul your groceries. It's just absolutely mind-blowing to put it in that perspective, at least for me. The second thing that I'd like to talk about that is really expensive in Sweden is the cost of alcohol. Now, I've made a ton of videos on this channel about the Swedish liquor store monopoly that they have that's run by the government, Systembolaget, which is actually a great store. But alcohol is something that's taxed very highly as well here in Sweden. And the prices of alcohol, although they're much cheaper at the liquor store than what you expect when you're going out, because going out is just absolutely insane on another level if you're buying alcohol. But at the liquor store, even at the liquor store, you're going to be paying double compared to what you might be paying in a lot of countries. According to this article here, a bottle of 0.7 liters of Absolut vodka is going to cost you about 239 crowns, which comes out to about 24 euros roughly. And that same bottle of vodka in Germany is only 12 euros. So it's half the price in Germany. If you want to buy beer, for example, according to this article, again, 0.33 liters of a can of this popular German Pilsner beer will cost you about €1.20. And in Germany, you can actually buy, with that price, you can buy an entire liter, so 3 times as much beer for the same price. Now, I don't have a problem with the government taxing things like plastic and alcohol because I think those things are maybe more destructive for a society as a whole. So I guess if they need to collect taxes, I'd rather them take the taxes out on those things versus maybe other things, tax like alcohol and those sorts of things. I have less of a problem with that. But really, when you do compare this, you can see how much things cost. It's sort of mind-blowing as somebody that, drinks moderately from time to time, the amount of money that I'll actually spend on alcohol And a lot of times I'll go to the liquor store in Sweden just to save money versus going out, but still in reality, I'm paying double what I would be paying in most places. The third thing that is super expensive in Sweden, thank the Lord, this is not something that I have to pay for because I live in central Stockholm and I don't need a car. But if I did have a car, I would be spending a ton of money on gasoline because gas prices in Sweden are insane. When I left America 3.5 to 4 years ago, basically the price for gasoline where I was living was between $2 and $3 per gallon, just to give you guys basically a starting point for this comparison. But in Sweden, they charge you about 15 crowns per liter. If you do the calculations and you change crowns per liter into dollars per gallon for all of our American people out there, that costs $6.8 per gallon. So basically for gas, it's 3 times the price in Sweden as it is in America. And America is a huge country where everybody drives everywhere. So basically you have to have a car to get around, and we like to keep our gas prices relatively low. But this is just another area absolutely insane. I mean, spend $7 almost per 1 gallon of gasoline. I'm surprised anybody would take the car anywhere in Sweden, especially since the public transportation is so good here. Now, my number 4 for this video is something that I always thought seemed really expensive in Sweden, but I never did the side-by-side comparison, and I was blown away how much more expensive this was in Sweden, and that is the price of meat. The price of meat in Sweden. For 1 kilogram of ground beef, people are paying over $7 in Sweden. And for chicken breasts, this is the one that really blew me away because I eat a lot of chicken in my diet. And for 1 kilogram of chicken breast in Sweden, that's going to cost over $12 on average. Over $12 for a kilogram of chicken. And if you compare that to the price in the US, chicken breasts price per kilogram, that's 3.3 to 4 US dollars. So 3 to 4 times the price for chicken in Sweden. To me, that is insane. And all of these things that are more expensive in Sweden, it's really even crazier because the average salaries in America are higher. The average taxes in America are lower, and the average price of pretty much everything in Swedish society is higher. So it really makes me question just looking at this living in Sweden, because financially it's really, really tough to get ahead in this country. There's a lot of taxes and a lot of things. The cost of goods is so much higher, especially for me being somebody that consumes a lot of meat products. You can see why there's a lot of vegetarians and vegans in this country just based on that. Now, the 5th and final thing that I want to discuss in this video that is much less expensive in America, I think, versus Sweden, is something that I've actually saved a lot of money on this past year because of the global pandemic, and that is eating in restaurants. If I'm getting dinner for 2 at a mid-range restaurant in Stockholm, and even when I lived in Norrköping, prices were, pretty similar actually, even with Norrköping being a smaller city. A dinner for 2 will usually cost me between 500 to 600 crowns, and then if we get alcohol, could be even more than that. And I think this is pretty standard in Stockholm, and definitely I remember getting a plate for dinner in Norrköping would maybe be 200 crowns as well, and then you add the drinks in as well. So you add this up, it's easily over $30 per person for an average dinner at a mid-range restaurant in Sweden. And based on what I've seen from data in America, the average is around $17 at a mid-range restaurant. Granted, there is going to be tax and tip in a lot of places. In the state of Oregon, which was, Portland, the area where I'm from, we wouldn't have the sales tax, but we would still have to add, maybe 15% in tips. But that means, a good tip on $17, that was only $3 maybe per person for that tip. So all in all, only $20 for a meal at a pretty nice restaurant in Portland. And you're probably going to be paying a third more for that same experience. And then if you want to go ahead and tip in Sweden, it's not necessarily a requirement. Like in the US, it's pretty much expected to tip at the restaurants there. but that would put you even higher if you did decide to leave a tip in Sweden as well. So based on these things, you can see that the cost of living in Sweden is definitely not cheap, at least compared to America. I know if you compare to some other countries like Norway, for example, they're notoriously even more expensive than Sweden is, and some countries like Switzerland. One of my friends from Instagram was just traveling through Switzerland and saying that the prices were very, very high in that country, even higher than Sweden. And that was sort of the inspiration for me making this video, because they're like, wait a sec, this is a Swede traveling in Switzerland saying, wow, the prices in Switzerland are so high. And I'm like, whoa, 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 just hold on a second. I think things in Sweden are very high coming from the US. But this was very, very interesting for me to make the comparison. I hope it was interesting for you guys. If it was, please press that like button. I'm really trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. That's been a goal of mine for a long time. So if you like these comparisons of Sweden and America and me speaking about culture, hit the like button, that subscribe button. Both those things go a long way to helping me reach my goal. And I really appreciate that. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and I will see you in another one.